Let's get it started.
Welcome to
She Blaze,
where we're bringing you cannabis culture from a woman's point of view. And as always, here to elevate the cannabis industry. I'm one of your hosts, Ice Dawson, Cannabis Socialite.
Hey, and I'm Dasheeda Dawson, the WeedHead. We are back.
Yes,
and we're a little close. We're a little close.
We actually haven't been this close in a
while.
minute.
Yeah, I'm not even trying to front.
We are social distancing, but we have quarantined ourselves, so we know what germs we have at this point. But Georgia is open, Arizona's opening. You know, there's a lot of different states that are basically opening now. So social distancing, we got to figure it out what it looks like every day.
I agree. So what we got going on today?
On today's episode of She Blaze, Weed Map subpoena is revealed. States have stalled legalization. They're really feeling the burn of COVID. And we're celebrating a Cannabis Mother's Day.
Ooh, you know, there's a lot of cannabis moms out there. Shout out to the cannabis moms. Hey.
Yes, and we are getting into our high of the week. This week's high is pretty dope.
Oh, are you revealing my high of the week? My high of the week is actually a new strain that just hit the market called Bridge H2O.
Hey, shout out.
Shout out to Leo Bridgewater, who is just an awesome advocate, veteran cannabis advocate, and he has won a number of awards in the last couple of years, but now he has a new strain in the market, in the New Jersey medical market. You can find it at Harmony Dispensary, and I was definitely so hyped when I heard about it. I was just like, that's so dope.
Right.
Like,
that's pretty lit.
Yes. I'm like, who gets to have like a strain, Leo?
Right.
Yes.
And it's a pretty cool name. I definitely like the name a lot better than some of the other names we've been into.
Oh, you mean like AK-47?
Yeah, or just different, just like even the Girl Scout cookies or the GGGs, which they've had to change. You know, I thought it was very unique. So I really am proud of him, excited, and I can't wait to try it.
I really can't wait to try it. So here is the scoop on it. It's basically a bit of a 60-40 or 70-30 split, indica sativa. It is going to relax you, I believe, and I definitely think it was tailored specifically to support PTSD, and that is definitely one of his biggest platforms, especially as he talks about 22 veteran suicides per day. I just want to give a shout out to Leo. I mean, just a couple of days ago, last week or so, he had a 22 seconds where we took a moment of silence for these veterans. So shout out to Leo doing big things. Yes. We can't wait to smoke.
Right.
With our Bridge H2O, okay?
Yes, it might be a little bit into the fall though, because you know this quarantine stuff might.
Yes, so might not get to Jersey for some time.
Yes,
but definitely a good high of the week.
And you know, you never know once seeds get produced, it's gonna be worldwide after that. You know what I mean?
This is true.
So, you know, just calling it out. And my high of the week, currently I'm smoking on some fruit punch, and about weed maps. Now, if you recall, we had already talked about weed maps earlier in the season, getting investigated by the federal courts for a long time. Weed maps was known for, you know, allowing unregulated dispensaries onto their platform. And, you know, they kind of took the stance, like, I hate to quote it, but kind of like Backpage or Craigslist, where it's like, listen, we're just the platform, we're not checking that. Right. And a lot of people has been kind of off
side eye.
Yeah, yes, definitely very side eye. And you know how this industry is, when they side eye you, they also make a few phone calls. So we're now also hearing and seeing what the subpoena really is revealed to be searched for.
Okay, so I got my cup. What's the tea?
Yes, well, the tea is provided by MJ Biz Daily. They're the ones that got the subpoena. I've read through it. It's very long. I only got through half. I'm not gonna lie. but it is super long, and it basically is a magnitude of things. Not only are they looking for the unregulated dispensaries, they're trying to follow Weed Map's money, who they're connected with politically, how did they get connected politically, what are they doing with their money. It's a very broad subpoena, and they have to get copies of pretty much every single thing since June 2018 all the way until when this subpoena was called in 2019. So this is about a 2-year process of pulling and extracting the information from their business, and it's just really it's really sad.
That's a little frightening. So on the one hand, I am very much a proponent of, if you're going to be in the legal cannabis industry and you want to be so visible, like Weed Maps is really visible, one of the first to move into a market, whenever a market's just talking about legalization, right? All of a sudden you're seeing the billboards, then you definitely want to support the legal market itself. And therefore, having a certification process that includes these details should be so important. But I think that they're following the money, because if you are taking funds from legacy market brands or businesses, then you're not following the state law. You're not protected by Cole Memo. There are some things that then they have to say, well, this was done on, multiple illegal levels. It is sad to watch. You want to make sure, if you're going to be that I think visible in this industry, you definitely want to keep your nose clean. And I am also worried about the 100+ individuals that have been sort of implicated in this particular subpoena. They're businesses, individuals. If you've done any business with Weed Maps, which by the way is a very small percentage of groups that have not, you may find yourself on that list as well. So it's not something to take lightly at all, because I think that the Department of Justice subtly moving. I got my feelings about Weed Maps, and I think they could have done better. Big company, you making these moves, you need to keep yourself clean. But the DOJ does not necessarily support cannabis legalization, and this might be a way to get information on big companies and their finances and what their spends are.
That is definitely true. We know the DOJ is not protecting cannabis at this point. It's not in their budget. It's not in their memos. And, they're really coming after us hard. I think my hardest part is that, I kind of understand Weed Map's pain, and they've really been cracking down lately on the internet aspect of things. What's allowed to be advertised, what's allowed to be said. I guess they're trying to clean up the internet. It does feel like it's taking away some, natural rights that we normally have as Americans.
Right.
But I am really curious about how Weed Maps will handle this. They did a bunch of layoffs even before the subpoena was revealed of what it was. They are looking into a lot of different everyday brands that we see and hear, whether it's on the CBD side or even the actual cannabis legalization side as well. So I'll drop the links for the subpoena because it's worth reading, because they also list the companies that they want to see and the individuals. So they listed all of them too.
Of course, because it's a public subpoena. Well, good luck to Weed Maps. We'll definitely be following this in episodes to come, because I can't imagine that more information is not going to come out. But it's definitely a little bit concerning, because there are things moving. And I keep telling everyone, we got to watch the chessboard. They're playing chess. We can't play checkers. Just in the last month, right, we've got Epidiolex, the GW Pharma CBD drug, is no longer on any schedule. So the DEA has removed it. The FDA is supporting that. It's FDA approved. We've got a little bit of the cards stacked against us, and this is one of those examples where they hold you up in court, and among a lot of drama and trust, a lot of energy is being working towards that for Weed Maps, and instead of it being towards what they've been doing, which is cleaning it up and changing their system so that they can actually be in support of the legal market, not just any market.
Well, they did change it in January.
Right.
They force any cannabis dispensary to provide their licensing information. So it was recently changed because they don't want this problems next time or later. So, talking about just different board moves and the cannabis legalization, I got some more business tea in our hot topic number 2.
Okay.
And we did talk about it in the previous episodes, but we're just revealing more and more and more. High Times, as we talked about, they're looking to do brick and mortar in the cannabis legalization space, and they want to retail, they want to dispense, they want to kind of move, they want to keep their publications, but they want to move into, really touching the cannabis money. And so it is being released that High Times Holdings Corporation acquired 13 dispensaries from Harvest Health, which is one of the largest multiple state operators and producers of cannabis in this country.
It is, yep.
Yep. And interesting enough, guess where it's based out of?
Where?
Arizona.
Yes.
Yeah, so it is very curious on how this will happen. They're quoting saying that this is an $80 million cash and stock deal, and that, it is preparing some public raising. They also are saying that it is not quite that official because the deal is expected to be closed on June 30th. So, they ain't signed no papers yet. So,
well, that's how it works. And, this is normal business. I want to make sure that we talk a lot about the fact that there's a lot of deals that haven't happened. There was a whole acquisition deal over almost $600 million, $700 million acquisition did not happen. So I totally understand our little side eye whenever people are advertising or publicizing a deal. This is a big move for High Times. I am a stockholder.
Oh,
Yeah. So I'll put that out there. But shout out. They didn't want to be weed maps. Let's be real. I mean, when you're previously a publication or a content play, which is the same in some ways as weed maps, your revenue is primarily driven on that advertising dollar. People wanting to get their brand awareness out, sponsorships. So from their events to the actual magazine, it is all about, do I want to spend that marketing dollar? Versus, and yes, they were getting sales, and maybe you might have a few print magazine sales to consumers, and to people who are buying tickets. But for the most part, that's a low margin industry. There is a bit of a cap because you're capped by the region. Yes, some people will travel to a High Times Cup, but when you put them in every single state that's legal, you don't kind of got to travel. You can pick and choose. Whereas before, back in the day, it was this is the cup, right? And so I definitely feel like their model has put them into a situation where their revenue streams have these caps or have very small margins. Having a brick and mortar situation, however, is now more complicated federally, of course, because before they went from sort of non-plant touching in some ways, the ultimate ancillary business, to something that is like Harvest, where they have to worry about every single move.
I mean, and it's multiple states too. So now we're talking about compliance in every single market, because no market is the same.
So the 13 dispensaries didn't just come from California?
No, okay. I do not believe it came from California. It did not say.
Okay.
But it's based on where the Harvest Health dispensaries are coming from, because previously they closed on two dispensaries in California, which is what we reported on.
Gotcha.
Harvest Health has its own actual dispensaries that they're acquiring too.
Yeah, they're all over, and they were one of the first dispensaries we went to in Arizona, and was like, this is an Apple store, right?
It was a little Apple store. That's what I'm most curious about. I'm curious. High Times, you can change your logo? Because, I've seen this logo since before I was born. So, I'm very curious
to what. Before you were born.
I was just saying, I'm very curious on how it's going to translate into brick and mortar. And, brick and mortar, how will the transition from publication really affect producing and dispensing cannabis to people? How is that really going to go over? I'm very curious, because they're actually the legal industry is actually struggling, really keeping people in and keeping people coming and being loyal to their store even. And so, I'm curious because this could be a game changer because they literally have been, I don't want to say the backbone, but they're the most known media publication for cannabis.
Specifically, yes. And what has happened is that there are other specific ones that have arisen, but now mainstream media is getting in the game too, and it becomes a little bit more challenging. If I can choose to advertise in Essence versus High Times, I'm going to choose Essence.
Yeah.
But I also feel like, they're relying on their brand name. People have the ability to just say, hey, I know High Times, so I'm going to go to the High Times dispensary. I wouldn't expect them to change their name. Yes, doing some brand refresh.
I didn't say the name. I said the logo.
Yes, the brand refresh.
When we could get a new ideation of it, we look at TNT or USA at TV when we're looking. Every year they logo change.
Well, I wouldn't say every year. It's about every 3 years. We are talking about 30 years, so I definitely am not arguing about the logo change. I just want to make sure, though, that they know that their biggest equity, and I'm sure it's the case with Stormy Simon, who is the new CEO, the biggest equity is in the brand name. And so they will have to push that. They'll also have to figure out how to integrate the stores as a physical entity for their various events. They rent out a lot of spaces. They do a lot in that way. And as we know from our experience in the industry, that is sometimes the highest cost in terms of doing an event. So if you have multiple dispensaries and if you have large enough, and for the most part, Harvest Health dispensaries have been pretty large format, you have an ability to make something happen on a regular basis if you are interested in also still doing events. And then every single dispensary I've been to always has some sort of publications available. Even MedMen decided to create their own magazine, right? And so they have that capability as well. They could follow a similar Victoria's Secret model where, you have stores, but you also have these catalog/magazine experiences. So I think it's going to be something that as a businesswoman, I'm excited to watch and see what happens. But yes, we first got to close the deal. June 30th, we'll report back and see if that actually got signed.
I know that's right. We will see. This is a game changer. So I'm curious how they're about to change the game. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of, poor COVID, our hot topic number 3 is really, really interesting. And I want to get your business analyst review. Hot topic number 3 is about New Mexico's governor really, really not feeling well about, the economic effects of the coronavirus and not being able to pass the legalization, cannabis legalization in New Mexico. Mm-hmm. It's, really sad because she did put that as one of her like highlights of what she wants to do for the year is, pass legalization. And everybody feels like passing legalization would help some of through the taxes will help the state, especially during the coronavirus. She feels like if we had passed it, we would be able to use the money to, help the people of the state. So I'm curious because it is like New Mexico does have a medical market. Mm-hmm. It's not as intense as maybe Arizona, but they are trying to mimic it in a way. Mm-hmm. So that's very smart. So I can understand where she's going with that. But due to the coronavirus, everything is pretty much getting stalled. So what really, if somebody was to pass legalization, these last 3, the months before the coronavirus hit, would they be able to even use revenue from legalization?
I think that these are great questions. A shout out to the New Mexico governor, Michelle Lynn, who's definitely trying to get it done, but she also has to understand how it gets done. It takes a while before you see the impact of a real legalization bill to regulation and implementation. I would say anywhere from 12 to 18 months, even when you grandfather in. Just because you make something legal, meaning you can just walk in and show your ID, doesn't mean people come in droves. Now, of course, we see what has happened in Illinois and how many, millions and millions of dollars happened in the first couple of days of sales, but they also ran out of cannabis. And at Target, we call that out of stock. And that means that you have an inventory opportunity as far as sales is concerned. You're missing sales for what you don't have. And you're also driving people back to the legacy market because they may come and realize that you don't have what they want. But I think it's a real falsehood to spread that you can legalize and boom, that money is going to hit. It doesn't work that way. You legalize and then it's going to take at least 12 to 18 months just to hash out how you want to regulate in your state. It would serve them better to expand their medical program, make it easier and more understandable for people to get a card. And their program, again, it is a good mirror of Arizona, but Arizona's cards still range upwards to $300 now every 2 years instead of every year. They don't have a lot of health professionals who have really converted over. You're going to see someone who is more alternative medicine, which is great, but still doesn't serve the greater population. The more ailments that are easily and more readily, like even just like PTSD, which by the way, now with COVID, everybody can qualify for a cannabis medical card. But the more readily accessible those things are, the bigger that market gets. And that market already has a taxation structure that can now be tapped into. So I think it's a matter of being a little bit more strategic about how this money is actually developed in a market. It doesn't happen overnight. And so while, yes, she should be sad, she should also not make statements, in my opinion, that could lead the federal government, that's my worry, into believing they wish they had legalized marijuana before COVID too, because it means it's going to get done quick, fast, in a hurry. What we've learned in this country just by the rollout of all the details of COVID and our payouts and stimulus, all that, is that when things get done really fast, it is not necessarily to the benefit of poor brown communities or disadvantaged communities in any way, shape, or form in the United States specifically. So I do not want marijuana to be legalized under those circumstances. I also don't think it makes sense to legalize when you're only thinking about it from a monetary perspective. Cannabis is medicine first, and it's a miss when you want to jump right into the adult use market, but your medical market is still,
right.
That just doesn't work for me.
I completely agree. She's also calling for it to be on the voters' ballot. Okay. So, in November. So it's a way to, as her way kind of work around for legalization. She's willing to allow the people to vote on it. But I do think you're right. People expect cannabis to, throw some seeds in and then the money grow. It does not work like that at all, unless you have a little bit more of a freer market. You have more of, caretakers, patients, home grow. Those things, might help you stimulate the economy a little bit faster. But do I think that, if you have like the California legalization market, would you have such a quick turnaround that the corona effects would benefit? I don't think so.
I think you're genius in what you said. Those are the steps. So for example, if you were to create a situation where you can not only feed the market with your application dollars or your fees, licensing fees, just to home grow, I know so many people that would be like, bet, I only have to pay $1,000, like paying your house taxes, right? I got to pay $1,000 to be able to license just to grow at home. You would get an influx a lot faster than this big, bulky, arduous process with corporations. There should be a staggered approach. And I think the problem is it starts with a tops down. They think we got to get the big companies in first. That's actually not the way it will work. The legacy market is hand to hand, consumer to consumer. And so you probably should start there. And the easier it is for those folks to get in, then you start to build a trust around a legal market entity. And then the big companies can start to come in.
They're going to
want to as well, because your consumers will have more confidence. It's something that I continue to talk about. I don't think that it's rocket science, but I do think until we think of this like a regular consumer good, we are going to continue to put it in these boxes that don't really make sense for the plant itself and the way we consume it.
I completely agree. And so we are definitely hoping that, y'all are taking notes in New Mexico, because we're about to hit into Hot Topic 4, and it's all about Illinois. So as we report even earlier in season, I feel like I'm just giving a refresh on all these news that we've already reported on. Earlier in the season, right when COVID hit, we found out that Illinois would extend its application deadline, extend. Well, right now they've suspended announcing the new licenses, and they were going to announce up to 75 May 1st. It is not happening. And, they feel like they need to focus on the COVID before they really sit and make decisions. Now, the fact that they're only announcing up to 75 and over 4,000 applications were received, around 700 of which are equity applications, is like, for real, y'all playing us. Like, you could I can see you like, we're not going to announce no number at all. We're not going to tell you how many numbers we were going to announce in May. We just going to keep you curious, because 75 is kind of disrespectful to me. I know you're a numbers girl, so you probably already got the number percentage of how little it is. But 75 compared to over 4,000 applicants, it's like, come on, son.
Well, let's be real. This is like college applications. I don't know how many people apply to Princeton, but not a lot of people get it.
Listen, Illinois ain't in Princeton.
Princeton
right. Ain't in Illinois.
Here's the challenge. Everyone should recognize that this isn't new applicants. These applications were in way before COVID hit. So no disrespect at all to the Office of Cannabis in Illinois, of course, because I think that there's a lot happening. COVID is a big deal. But if we do have a dedicated office that's specific for cannabis, why have we not now reviewed all of those initial applicants, at least to take it down? So one thing they'll do in New Jersey is they'll kind of have an elimination round. And that's something you can do. If someone, I will say, is applying to college, for example, just to use the same analogy, and you out the gate know you don't fit, there's a round where they're just like, you can just send that rejection letter there. Yeah. So people don't have to be waiting. There's a lot of people who hold on certain resources, whether you're keeping in a potential lease for the real estate you need, or keeping a partnership, or you're not moving into another market because you're waiting to hear for that market. So it's an impact, not, it's an impact not to say one way or another. And I think if you can dwindle down that number to a reasonable amount, then at least you're letting some folks go and not believe it. I would feel the same way. Again, I use the college application process. It's the only thing I can think of where I knew I was going into it and I was like, listen, they getting 20,000 applications and 10 people getting picked. Like, that sometimes is life.
I think I think unfortunately, because I understand what you mean, but Illinois, they could have not said how many numbers they're going up to. Because unfortunately, when you hear about a market that's literally running out of product and you think only, starting 75 would help boost it, is very unfortunate. I feel like, they could have kept us in the dark about that, as far as I'm concerned, especially when you hear that, 4,000 people applied there were 4,000 applicants and 700 of the applicants were social equity. So, what's the percentage of these 75 being social equity? 5?
Well, that's a good question. I think we have to dig into it more. I think the delay is really going to have more impact on the social equity applicants. The group is really behind as far as cannabis legalization is in all states, but Illinois specifically opened with no owners. We knew that was going to happen. That got a lot of backlash. And I think that when you make that type of investment, you'll be shocked to find out how difficult it is to hold in place without any revenue coming in at all. Hope Wiseman talks about this all the time. Years before she could give herself a paycheck, right? And going through the licensing process is just one step. It's not even like I got my business up and running, because there's only but so much you can do when you're in the application process. I think it's the right decision for the global
Agreed.
you know, needs of the community, because COVID-19 is really, right now they need to push on cannabis businesses that exist, getting some sort of relief, right? Like that's still a struggle. And so I think we have to direct our attention to keeping the businesses that are alive afloat, but also maybe, to your point, there might be some type of fast tracking for the social equity component of the licenses that get delivered. I don't know. You know, I don't know if people understand how long the process takes. And it's a very long process. And to assume that we can just get it up and running is because you think it in your mind is like Day and them that's bringing your weed from the corner, and you don't really know how it even it didn't have a setup. That's not regular consumer product manufacturing and retail. It's just not.
No, and you didn't create that component too, because if you had created that component, you know, people would actually be going to Day and them around the corner.
Yes, because then hopefully Day would give him a tour of the newest High Times dispensary, and he's getting the appropriate, you know, buy-in. And hopefully it would be equity because he already had a business. I got so many ideas. We need to let the plug in, get the plug legit, and this would be less of a problem. It is also a lot easier now. You can do curbside, but if we just acknowledge that this market really does exist, good people are in it. Instead of, again, the big bulky process, this could have been a lot easier in Illinois with a smaller process and getting micro licenses up and running. You deliver, okay, boom. These are the outlets you can potentially use.
I completely agree. And so I'm glad that, you know, I'm glad that Illinois is deciding to focus on COVID and trying to get that understanding. I hope the patients are still getting their, you know, medicine no matter what, because that's definitely going to keep you healthy during these times. And, you know, I am really excited to move to our main topic because it's Mother's Day.
Coming up so soon. Oh my God, it's already May. But I'm a cannabis mom, so you know I appreciate you representing and, you know, making sure.
Y'all pop mamas is living y'all best life because y'all just been locked in the house for 8 weeks. Barely, you know, people acting cray, but, you know, barely locked in the house a little bit. But, you know, we could do some fun things that maybe don't involve going out to do.
This is true, but involve cannabis.
It does involve cannabis.
Let's get it.
You want to move your camera back a little bit so you can be seen a little bit more?
Oh, my camera got to move back. Okay. So, yes. All right. Here we go. That's what happened when we're doing double time.
Right. I was going to say a joke, but I ain't going to say no more. So, yes, Cannabis Mother's Day. And, you know, I wanted to talk about a little bit of products you could get mom that could really show her that, you know, you really appreciate her and you're thankful and you want her to relax. Because when I think of Mother's Day, I think, okay, well, you know, I'll be running mommy around up and down. This day is for her to relax. So the first thing that comes to mind are like home cannabis spa products. Yes. You know, things she could really just take in and relax for herself. And I'm a skincare girl too. So different products that we really like for a face mask, toner, face cream, face wash, eye rejuvenation. Because, you know, mommy be like,
yes.
Win at them, child.
Yes, eye rejuvenation. And you know, of course, I have some of my favorite brands. And I'm glad that we are talking about this because I wanted to make sure that people had enough time to go ahead and get those orders in because things are moving a little slow. But I got to shout out Taylor and Tess again. They're so cute. Taylor and Tess. This is a skincare brand, CBD infused, Black owned, Black woman owned. Okay. And this is my favorite. This is the Quickie. And it's a little, just a little facial toner, and it's a spritz. I ran out of this the fastest. So I would say for every monthly like kind of amount, you might need 2 of these because you do take this on the go and you could get a nice like, little quick refresh. Right. I love it, but it's great for home. And it's very relaxing. All of the products from Taylor and Tess smell so good. Yes. And it has a lavender scent, and that in of itself is very relaxing.
Yes, that's definitely one of your favorite scents to have around the house. Also, you know, talking about different face creams, toners, it's a lot different from the things we talk about when we say, you know, we ingesting CBD or taking it in orally. So I wanted to talk about a little bit of dosaging for these cannabis byproducts, because as you know, things like Sephora and Ulta are definitely trying to create their, cannabis line, cannabis space in their product source. And, I see a lot of those have like hemp seed oil and things like that, and it doesn't even give you milligrams of CBD, but it got CBD on the top of the creamer. So I really want to talk about, like, when you're looking at these products, what is the most ideal dosaging for skincare?
So these are great questions because I have been a little bit appalled by the advertising. The first is you want to make sure, first of all, hemp seed is still good for you. It's great to ingest. It's good for your skin. But hemp seed has very little cannabinoid concentration. So that's not where we're going to find CBD, right? That's still going to come from the flowers, cannabinoids, whether it's marijuana or hemp. It's going to primarily be in the flowers. There is some in the stalk, but you're still going to primarily extract it from the flower. Now, as with every product, especially an active ingredient, having run the Victoria's Secret beauty business, I know we're supposed to say what the amount is, whether it's menthol or eucalyptus, even some of the essential oils, you got to put it on the back. And so when you are looking online and you're not seeing any of that, that's when I'm like, maybe you might need to go to the next thing, okay? And for people who are trying to cater to this market, you want to make sure you include that. I am of the belief that you can do a lot with 20 milligrams of CBD infused in a product. I'm also of the belief that while full spectrum is still best, I really prefer that for ingestion. And I think that isolate can actually be something that's very workable for topical application, especially for skincare. The reason why I like isolate for skincare is because it's the exacting amount. It doesn't mean, again, that the full spectrum, it doesn't apply some sort of benefit for the skin. But if you're really trying to say, hey, this is an anti-aging cream with CBD and it's going to, reduce inflammation and, puffiness or whatever around the eyes, let's go right for it, and in beauty, oftentimes that will be the case. And so you can get to your exact 20 milligram amount in a number of different ways, but it's a lot easier with isolate, in my opinion. Absolutely. So you might see one or both. You will pay a little bit more for full spectrum. But if you're not ingesting it, I'm not sure, again, it's worth that upcharge per se. But I do think 20 milligrams for a good face wash or toner is great. I've seen very little in places like 2.5. And I don't think it's not like other, molecules that you're adding. I do think you want to have a little bit more bang for your buck. And actually, it is expensive. But I see some people are taking advantage of that, and they're only having like maybe 2 grams or 2 milligrams in it, and you're like, okay, did this actually do anything?
This is just regular cream. We could have bought this from Walmart.
That's true, right? And sometimes they are like putting so much menthol and so much other stuff. And yes, again, those terpenes and other essential oils are great. They're important, but it's still, again, not CBD. And so when you then make false claims, because you can't even make those claims anyway, thanks to the FDA, and it's not FDA approved. You make those claims. Unfortunately, when it doesn't work that way, you know what you're doing? You are decrediting or losing credibility for the cannabis space. So I would employ, just don't do it. Just, so start with a good therapeutic amount. And I think that's definitely over 10 milligrams, but 20 seems to be the sweet spot.
Okay, so definitely when you're looking at products, if you're gonna just Google, because if you Google it, you'll find a bunch of products. That's something you definitely want to look for, is the dosing and the correct amount. I also think that bath bombs are a great gift for mom. You want her to relax. You actually might leave her alone while she's in the bath because you can't really go nowhere. It'd be a perfect way to chill out on that day.
Absolutely. I love a bath bomb. And you know me, I also...
Well, we use it
everywhere. So that's the other thing. Bath bombs are so many uses. I'm a MacGyver girl. So if I got something, I'll DIY it if I need to. I have taken the bath bombs that have been broken, because sometimes you travel and they break. Yeah. Don't throw it away. That powder, it can be added to water. You can make your own sprays. You can make your own hair stuff. So even if you're doing it, giving a gift to your sister who is a young mom.
Yes. Oh, true. That's a hint.
It's just a hint. No, if you do that, then you're able to give her something that she can have multiple uses. Because sometimes the younger moms and older millennial moms, like we don't got time to get all the way in the bath. You know, like grandma be like, let me go take a bath. Like sometimes you don't feel you have that opportunity, but you can actually transform your bath bomb into things you can use in a shower, into, again, you know, your own DIY products with some sort of cannabinoid infusion. And I do it all the time.
Right. Well, they got time to do it.
Exactly.
So bath bombs with lotions are a pretty good option for things to get, you know, staying moisturized. Do you have any brands you really like with their lotion?
Yes, you know, I came with gifts because that is something, you know, first of all, we're Black girls, so we want to stay moisturized.
Right,
and
that
I'm
is
dark
the goal.
skin, I do not like ash. But I also love when lotions can double for pain creams, because what you're not realizing is you're getting a benefit to the skin, but it still permeates. That cannabinoid is still going to work wherever it lands. And sometimes for me, especially my hands, they could be the driest ever. And I work with them a lot. I'm signing books. But this is Lily Pearl Beauty, another Black woman-owned CBD infused skincare brand. And I love this infused body mousse, which it can go on the body, but I use this on my hands a lot. And it's like, oh, see, I'm trying to open it, but it just smells delightful. Yes. So it's a very good, light, clean smell. It's very fluffy, soft. And while I'm using it on my hands, because it has 40 milligrams of CBD, which even if I didn't know that, it's on the cover. Thank you. Shout out to Lily Pearl for that. But basically, it can be a very good moisturizer, as well as handle any mild pain or inflammation that I have in my joints. I used to ball, so my hands hurt the most.
Right.
I mean, they don't look like Michael Jordan's fingers yet, but there's a couple east-west left, right, going the wrong way.
You got it. Are you throwing up gangsta? Tell me, come here.
But this helps with it, dryness as well as a little bit of pain.
Right. No, I think that's amazing. I definitely like Lily Pearl because even though I don't necessarily feel inflammation, it does hit the elbows and you are moisturized all day. So I definitely can appreciate that.
Without a greasy after effect. That's the other thing.
And it doesn't get into your perfume like when you spray it.
That's true. Or your clothes. Because I find those are the two things that really, when you get real lotions, it's like you put on Vaseline and you're like, what happened? Well, I got this grease stain. Because of my lotion. Right.
Or the Bengay that you want to put on your knees. Like,
why that smell that bad?
Who is it? Right. Like, what you like, what you got with this icy hot child? What's going on here?
I got to use what works.
So it still smells delightful, and it doesn't take over whatever scent you want to smell too, you know, just because it may smell good, but everybody wears perfume. You don't want your lotion to take over your perfume in that way.
Absolutely.
So I could really appreciate that. Another thing I want to talk about is massage oils. It's really nice to have massage oil, whether you're using it for yourself or you're gifting it. Cannabis massage oils are really nice and relaxing. And even if you don't know how to rub well, that massage oil will make you think you know how to rub for real.
If it's done well, especially, it's easy to do when you're putting everything in MCT oils. I think Tribe Tokes just came out with a massage oil. Tribe Tokes is a woman-owned brand. Shout out to the Tribe. I just think there are so many opportunities, again, where you're taking care of your skin. But for me, when I think about some of the pains I have, like the back that I've been having, I could use a good little massage oil on the back and have that CBD really work out some of the inflammation around my vertebrae. I mean, I think at this point it's endless to have dualities, right? Both the skincare benefit as well as some of this inflammation and pain.
Absolutely. I also saw that they have at-home nail manicures with CBD infused treatment. So people that are doing their manicures at home and you get your little nick because you might not be able to cut that cuticle as well as you think, having a CBD infused nail manicure could definitely benefit you on that note.
It does. Listen, my cuticles have been doing so well because I just do I take my CBD tincture oils right onto them. You know, they're normally really dry. Again, a little bit of the man hands playing ball. They're not used to having nails, and it basically cuticles attacking my nail bed. And now they're actually a lot more malleable, soft. I am a walking, I feel like, commercial for certain things with CBD and skin.
Oh, absolutely.
The autoimmune issues have definitely attacked my skin on my face, but also these are long issues, the nails, and to overcome that after like almost 40 years of no nails.
Right. That definitely was a great challenge. And I mean, I pretty much use cannabis all over on my skin too. I'm pretty holistic with my skin regimen because everybody, I feel like, no matter what, they do have a lot of skin issues. We use a lot of chemicals in our everyday products seen in super stores, and it damages your skin over time, and I'm feeling it. And so using things that have CBD infused has definitely, my skin has benefited, and it's been probably the clearest it's been in a long time. So even if you're looking to switch your skin regimen, I would highly suggest looking into using some of these CBD products because it will help your skin. You always tell me what cannabis does for the inside of your body, it does on the outside too. So it's very beneficial to use it on the outside, especially if you don't even want to use it on the inside.
It creates balance. And
yes.
So if you're too oily, it will help with that. You're too dry, it helps with that. It's one of those things where it wants that homeostasis.
Absolutely. So. And then I wanted to talk about some little sweet treats before they go out, as you know, because the FDA is, really trying to crack down on, some of the CBD infused foods. I'm going to give you more on that next week. But yeah, the FDA is definitely cracking down. So before they completely remove it from our availability, get your mama some treats. You could get her some chocolate covered strawberries. You could get, a smoothie powdered insert. You could get tea, gummies. So, definitely before it becomes unavailable, try some CBD infused foods.
Yes, I want to shout out a couple different tea options. Live Piff is one that you want to check out. That's LIVEPIF, plant inspired, I want to say future. And Green Heifer Farms is a Black woman owned as well. Shout out to Pharmacy. They both have some teas that are great teas, plant medicine at its best. And so, I agree. I don't know. I can't wait for this expose, girl. I don't know what the FDA is about to do, but let's just again remember that Epidiolex has been taken completely off the schedule. So this worries me a little bit, but we do still have the opportunity until they make any decisions to continue to push our agenda. But that's why it's so important to be an advocate. Even if you're just doing CBD tea, show up for that lobby day. Right. It's so important.
Yes, or that virtual lobby day. It's easier. You could do it from your phone, from your computer, from your iPad. There are so many ways and devices you can now connect. And yes, the FDA is really trying to come from us. Right now, it's a slow roll of information. So they're just making little bumbles here and there and cease and desists here. But ultimately, they're probably going to release something that may not benefit us in the best way. And I want to be the first in line to hear it, just like I'm the first in line to lobby for it. And then tincture. I think tincture is still just one of the best ways to get a good CBD or THC profile. We talked about how to make it at home. Yes. So if you want to know how to make it first, because you can't quickly access it, hit up our last episode. But if not, and you want to grab some CBD tincture, I would definitely, because with the tincture, you could put it under your tongue, but you could also put it in your tea, in your food. You could use it for quite a few things. And I wanted to talk about, tincture and what type of milligrams that people should look for with tincture, especially orally. What is in tincture even? Because sometimes people don't know and they know what to look for to purchase it.
Well, I have a lot of pet peeves around tinctures, as you know. One of them is drinking a lot of MCT oil. So that's basically a medium chain triglycerides, so essentially fat. And basically, it's not bad for you. We've actually seen a lot of benefits of just ingesting MCT oil that has not been infused with cannabinoids. But I am a person who, one, doesn't really love those type of tastes in my mouth, as generally no taste without flavor, especially if you've infused it with the whole plant. Now it tastes like the whole plant plus oil in your mouth, and you can imagine what that tastes like. So from a consumer perspective, it's already tough to do 1 dropper or 1 milliliter. Let that milliliter mean something to me. Mm-hmm. Let it be more than 5 milligrams or 10 milligrams. So I struggle. That's the potency level. So in a 30 milliliter bottle, you'll see things. I just recently was doing a review on one that had only 300 milligrams in a 30 milliliter bottle. I soon got very frustrated because, one, the dropper didn't work that great, but it only will give you 10 milligrams in 1 dropper fill. Yikes. And not to say, again, if you're just giving this as a gift to your mom and she has no ailments, no pain issues, nothing, and it's just about relaxing, balance, and maybe giving a little supplement, yes, up to 10, that's fine. But for someone like myself, where you want to use 25 milligrams, probably at the minimum, so know your segment. If you're only in a segment where it's a everyday and it's supposed to just make you feel good as a general anxiety, versus the segment that you're truly talking about pain management, inflammation, you want to make sure the dosaging or the potency it makes sense. If you you will lose customers that way. That one was 300 milligrams. I wouldn't look twice at 300 milligrams in 30 milliliters. No.
Well, I think it's hard because people, a lot of people, to be fair, I don't know anybody, too many people that are over the age of 35 that don't have ailments, right. Don't feel arthritis, don't feel the rain, maybe a injury from a child sometimes still gives them pain. Mm-hmm. So, I just want to be realistic about where our healthcare is at. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know too many people older than 35 that doesn't have pain in some way, shape, or form. And it's very unfortunate, but it's true. So just as a generalization, I think is understandable. But I do think, 10 milligrams is, even for me, I'd be like, this tastes like oil.
It does. And you have to, let's imagine you're holding it under your tongue. So you have, instead of being able to just take a couple of drops to hold on your tongue, mm-hmm. which is a little bit more reasonable, now I literally have 1 milliliter or 1 whole dropper full of stuff under my tongue. Let's be real. I'm drooling. I look a mess. Mm-hmm. I do that in the morning. I didn't like it. I think that it's easier to tell someone to take a half a dropper or to take less mm-hmm. than for them to start with a big, full dropper, especially if taste is a challenge.
True.
So.
Well, what type of things do you suggest to get for mom?
I thought you did an excellent job. I think there's just one last thing, because I am an entrepreneurial mom. I'm a mompreneur. That, of course, I feel like you gotta offer my book. Sorry. How to Succeed in the Cannabis Industry is now available in Target.com and BarnesandNobles.com. Amazon, it is now bestseller in 2 categories: business entrepreneurship as well as adult education, continuing education. So we are continuing to try to educate as many people, and I want as many moms like myself who are, again, you're curious about the cannabis industry, you're seeing it happening around you, maybe you're just hearing to talk about it, and you have that entrepreneurial, just that entrepreneurial spirit, and you want to get your side hustle on, or you want to figure out how to cross over your skills. This is the book to do it. It's only $19.99. In some places it's like $17, Barnes and Nobles mm-hmm. and Target. They always, do stuff with the pricing, but exclusively on my website, theweedhead.com, you can get the ebook. And if you use the code Green Rush, you can get the book for $9.99. It's automatically available for download. I'm not yet going to put it on Kindle, because once it's available there, it becomes a wrap. But we'll look for that in the back half of the year. But again, that's the only thing I would add. Get them some education, honey.
Okay. She got free time.
She got time.
She got got time. And you could build your business strategy from this, because you're like, oh, I didn't know I could I could also do this. 7 streams of income in America, child.
And if nothing else, we've learned from COVID that is a requirement.
Okay, you got to be able to do some stuff from your house.
Yes.
Yo, his naive.
Yes.
Well, it's been an amazing show. I'm so glad to be back. I mean, we had our special episode last week, so I am glad to bring you the newest tea and really keep you guys feeling in good spirits. Mother's Day is a great time to really show and appreciate the mother figures that you have in your life. So take some suggestions. We'll definitely check out the WeedHead.com, because that's probably where all the links will be housed. Truth be told. Okay, but do you want to leave the people any final thoughts?
Yes, you can now follow me at Dasheeda Dawson. Woo, woo. On the Instagram. I had to let the cannabis CEO go. Bye, boo. But yes, I am now at Dasheeda Dawson on Instagram and Twitter. And of course, I'm always the WeedHead, so you can find me at theweedhead.com.
Yes, and watch She Blaze live on Facebook every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. And you can listen to us anytime on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. Subscribe to us at theweedhead.com to stay up to date on what's blazing in the cannabis industry.
All right. Well, we will see you next week. I got to get my hands ready, of course, so we can stop the video. Bye.